The message came at midnight, Earth time. Admiral Cole was sleeping in her quarters aboard the starship Meridian when the alarm pulled her from her dreams. She had been dreaming of her daughter, of her playing in the green fields of New Eden. Now she was awake, and something was very wrong. She dressed quickly and made her way to the bridge. The crew was already there, their faces pale in the blue light of the display screens. Lieutenant Commander Samuel Grant turned to face her as she entered. "Admiral, we have received a priority transmission from the Galactic Council." Felt her stomach tighten. In 300 years of membership, humanity had never received a priority transmission. The Council usually ignored them, treating human concerns as unimportant matters that could wait. "Show me," she said. The main screen flickered to life. The face of Counselor appeared, his insect-like features sharp and angular. Behind him sat the other 11 members of the Council, representatives of species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years before humans had even discovered fire. "Admiral Cole," said. His voice was cold and flat, translated by the ship's computer into English. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding the human colony designated New Eden." Waited, she knew about New Eden. Everyone knew about New Eden. It was humanity's largest colony world, home to 12 million people. Her own daughter lived there with her family. "The Dominion has declared this colony to be a strategic threat," continued. "The Council has voted to approve their request for relocation of the human population." "Relocation?" asked. "What does that mean?" "The humans on New Eden will be transported to a new location. A moon on the edge of Council space has been prepared for them." Knew what this meant. She had heard the stories. When the Council relocated a population, they simply dumped them on some barren rock and left them to survive on their own. Most didn't survive. "Under what authority does the Council make this decision?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. Mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. "Provision 7 Alpha of the Galactic Charter. Junior species may be relocated when their presence conflicts with the strategic interests of senior members." Junior species. There it was. 300 years of following every rule, of being the perfect galactic citizens, and they were still the junior species. Still the newcomers. Still the ones who had to bow and scrape and accept whatever the older species decided. "I request an emergency appeal to the full Council," said. "The matter is settled. You have 48 hours to withdraw your vessels from the New Eden system. The relocation will proceed as scheduled." The transmission ended. Stood in silence for a long moment. Around her, the bridge crew waited. They were afraid. She could see it in their eyes. They had all been trained to follow orders, to respect the Council, to never make trouble. "Admiral," Samuel asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Thought about her. She thought about 12 million people who were about to lose everything. She thought about 300 years of humanity being treated like children, like pests, like something to be tolerated rather than respected. Something changed inside her. Something that had been building for a very long time finally broke free. "Contact Fleet Command," she said. "Tell Admiral that we need to talk. Tell him it's time." The emergency meeting took place 12 hours later aboard Unity Station. Representatives from every human colony had gathered. The Joint Chiefs of the United Earth Fleet were there. Government officials, scientists, everyone who mattered. Admiral was an old man, 73 years old, with white hair and tired eyes. He had spent his entire career dealing with the Council, smiling through insults, accepting humiliation after humiliation. He was tired of it. Stood before the assembly and explained the situation. The fleet was already moving toward New Eden. The relocation ships were being prepared. In less than 40 hours, 12 million humans would be forced from their homes. "What are our options?" asked Defense Secretary Laura Mitchell. Admiral stood slowly. "Our official options are limited. The United Earth Fleet has 300 combat vessels. The Council commands over 30,000. A murmur of despair ran through the room. However, continued, we have other options, options that the Council knows nothing about. He activated a holographic display. A star map appeared, showing human-controlled space. But as he touched the controls, new markers began to appear. Hidden locations, secret bases, things that had never been reported to anyone outside this room. For 150 years, said, humanity has been preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come. We did everything we could to avoid it, but we also remembered our history. We remembered what happens when you trust your survival to others. The display showed nearly 5,000 ships hidden across human space, secret shipyards buried in asteroids, research facilities on frozen moons, an entire shadow fleet that had been built in silence and darkness. We call it the contingency fleet, explained. Every generation has added to it. Every year we have grown stronger, and we have developed weapons that the Council banned long ago. Ban weapons? Someone asked. Yes, weapons so powerful that the Council species agreed never to use them again. Antimatter bombs, gravity missiles, things that can destroy entire fleets in seconds. His face was grim. We followed the ban publicly, but secretly we kept building, just in case. Laura Mitchell stared at the display. You're telling me that for 150 years we've been preparing for war with the galaxy, and no one knew. The fewer people who knew, the safer the secret was. The Council has spies everywhere. One leak would have destroyed everything. Can we win? Asked. Was silent for a moment. I don't know, but we can make them pay. We can make them understand that humanity is not a species to be pushed around, and maybe that will be enough. The assembly voted. It was unanimous. At 1600 hours Galactic Standard Time, the United Earth Fleet sent a message to the Council. The message was simple: remove your forces from New Eden within 24 hours or face the consequences. The Council received the message, they read it, and then they laughed. They actually laughed. High Admiral of the Dominion was particularly amused. He commanded 600 warships, more than enough to crush any human resistance. These soft, weak creatures had finally lost their minds. 300 years of being obedient had apparently made them forget their place. He gave orders for his fleet to continue toward New Eden. If the humans wanted to fight, he would teach them a lesson they would never forget. He had no idea what was coming. In the darkness between stars, 5,000 human ships began to move. They emerged from their hiding places, their engines glowing with power that the galaxy had never seen. At their center were 50 massive vessels, each one 3 kilometers long, covered in weapons that no Council species could identify. The Nemesis-class dreadnoughts had awakened, and humanity was done being quiet. High Admiral stood on the command deck of his flagship, the warship Crushing Tide. Around him, 600 vessels of the Dominion moved in perfect formation toward the human colony of New Eden. The blue and green planet grew larger and felt nothing but contempt for the creatures who lived there. Humans were weak. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. They lived short lives, barely a century if they were lucky. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armored skin. They were soft and fragile, and they had spent 300 years proving that they knew their place. High Admiral, his sensors officer reported, we are detecting human vessels in orbit around New Eden, 47 ships. Clicked his mandibles in amusement. 47 ships. His fleet could destroy 47 ships in minutes. Signal them to withdraw, he ordered. Tell them the relocation will proceed as planned. Any resistance will be met with force. The message was sent. A response came back almost immediately. High Admiral, the human commander is refusing to withdraw. She says that any ship that approaches New Eden will be destroyed. Almost laughed. The arrogance of these creatures was amazing. Did they really think they could threaten the Dominion? "Ignore her," he said. "Continue approach. If they fire on us, destroy them all." The fleet moved closer. The human ships held their position, small and fragile against the might of the Armada, watched them with the patience of a predator who knows his prey cannot escape. Then his sensors officer spoke again, and his voice was different now, uncertain, afraid. "High Admiral, we are detecting new contacts, multiple jump signatures on the edge of the system." "How many?" I am not certain. The readings are strange. Hundreds, no thousands. High Admiral, there are thousands of contacts." Turned to the main display. What he saw made his compound eyes widen in shock. Ships were appearing out of, not the small defensive vessels that the Council database listed as the human fleet. These were warships, real warships, their hulls black as the void itself. They bristled with weapons that had never seen before, weapons that made no sense according to everything he knew about technology. And they kept coming, more and more of them, filling the space around New Eden like a swarm of angry insects. 4,000 ships, the sensors officer reported, his voice shaking. And there's something else. 50 vessels of unknown type. They are enormous, High Admiral. Each one is 3 kilometers long. The Nemesis-class dreadnoughts took their position at the center of the human formation. They were the largest warships had ever seen, covered in weapon arrays that glowed with barely contained power. A transmission came through. The face of a human female appeared on the screen. She was older, with gray hair and cold eyes. "Fleet, this is Admiral Cole of the United Earth Navy. You are in violation of human space. You have 5 minutes to begin withdrawal. This is your only warning." Stared at the display. His fleet was still larger than theirs, but not by much, and those strange weapons. He made a decision. A stupid decision, born from centuries of believing that his species was superior, that humans were nothing but pests to be crushed. "All ships attack formation," he ordered. "Target the largest human vessels, destroy them." 600 warships opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across space, bright and deadly. These were weapons that had conquered 100 worlds, that had burned civilizations to ash. The plasma bolts struck the human shields, and nothing happened. The bolts simply disappeared, absorbed by shimmering barriers that seemed to drink in energy rather than deflect it. The human ships didn't even try to dodge. They just sat there, untouched, as the most powerful weapons the possessed washed over them like rain. "High Admiral, our weapons are having no effect. Increase power to all batteries. Fire again." The second volley was equally useless. The human shields held without even flickering. Then the humans fired back. The first Nemesis-class ship launched something that sensors couldn't identify. It moved faster than any missile he had ever seen, a streak of darkness against the stars. It struck a cruiser amidships. The cruiser didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, a ship with a crew of 800. The next moment there was nothing, not even debris, just empty space where a warship had been. Felt his legs grow weak. What was that? No one answered. No one knew. Another streak of darkness. 3 more ships vanished, then 5 more, then 10. The human fleet began to advance. They moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing in steady rhythm. Each shot erased another vessel from existence. "High Admiral, we are losing ships. We must retreat." "We cannot retreat. We represent the Council. We are the masters of this galaxy." Another flash, another dozen ships gone. "High Admiral, please. We cannot win this fight." Watched his fleet being destroyed. 400 ships lost in less than 15 minutes. The humans had not lost a single vessel. He finally gave the order. "All ships, emergency jump, retreat to space." The surviving ships fled. They jumped into hyperspace without coordination, without dignity, without honor. They ran like frightened animals from a predator they could not fight. Tried to run too, but before his ship could jump, a human missile found it. The crushing tide vanished from existence, taking High Admiral and his entire crew with it. In orbit around New Eden, Admiral Cole watched the last signatures disappear from her display. "Admiral," Samuel Grant said, "the enemy fleet has been destroyed or retreated. New Eden is secure." Nodded slowly. She felt no joy, no triumph, only a tired sense of relief. "Open a channel to the surface," she said. The face of Governor Young appeared on screen. She was crying, tears running down her cheeks. "Admiral Cole," said, her voice breaking, "we saw everything. Is it true? Are they really gone?" "They're gone, Governor. Your people are safe." How did you do this?" Looked at the display, at the thousands of ships that surrounded her. The secret fleet that humanity had built in silence and darkness. The weapons that could erase ships from existence. "We prepared," she said simply. "For 150 years we prepared, and now the galaxy knows what happens when you threaten our people." On the surface of New Eden, 12 million humans looked up at the sky. They had watched the battle through telescopes and sensors, had seen the fleet destroyed in minutes. They had expected to lose their homes, their lives, everything they had built. Instead, they had witnessed something impossible. They had witnessed humanity fight back. The cheering started in the capital city and spread across the planet. People poured into the streets, hugging strangers, weeping with relief and joy. For 300 years, they had lived in fear of the Council, of the older species who controlled the galaxy. Now that fear was gone. Humanity had shown its true strength, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the halls of the Galactic Council, the news arrived like a thunderbolt. The junior species had destroyed a fleet. The quiet humans had revealed themselves to be anything but quiet. For the first time the Council was afraid. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had not seen such chaos in over 2,000 years. Representatives of 12 species shouted at each other, their voices mixing into a storm of anger and fear. The holographic displays showed the battle footage again and again, ships disappearing like smoke in the wind. Counselor stood at the central podium, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. He had been so certain that the humans would surrender. He had laughed at their warning. Now 400 ships were gone, along with High Admiral and over 300,000 warriors. "This is an act of war," declared. "The humans have attacked our ships without provocation. They must be punished." "Without provocation," Counselor of the Conquered rose from her seat. She was tall and slender, with silver skin that shimmered in the chamber's light. "You sent a fleet to forcibly relocate 12 million innocent people. What did you expect them to do? They are a junior species. They have no right to resist council decisions." "Perhaps that is the problem," replied calmly. "Perhaps we have pushed them too far." The debate raged for hours. Some council members demanded immediate retaliation. A combined fleet from all council species, 30,000 ships or more, would descend on human space and crush them forever. Others were more cautious. They had seen the battle footage. They had seen weapons that could erase ships from existence. "What are these weapons?" Counselor of the Hegemony asked. "Our scientists cannot explain them. They violate everything we know about physics." "They are banned weapons," a scientist explained. "Gravitational displacement technology. It creates a small singularity at the point of impact. Everything within the effect radius is compressed to infinite density and simply ceases to exist." Banned weapons. But these were banned by the First Accords over 10,000 years ago. Yes, every civilized species agreed never to develop them. The destruction they cause is too terrible. But the humans developed them anyway. It appears so. The chamber fell silent. The First Accords had been the foundation of galactic civilization for 10,000 years. Every species had followed them. The idea that someone would secretly break these sacred agreements was almost impossible to believe. And yet the humans had done it. They had smiled and nodded and pretended to be good galactic citizens, while secretly building an army capable of challenging the entire council. "We must respond," insisted. "If we let this stand, every junior species in the galaxy will think they can defy us." "And if we attack and lose," asked, "what then?" "We cannot lose. We have 30,000 ships." They had 600 ships. They lost 400 in less than 20 minutes. How many will we lose against their full fleet? No one had an answer. Finally, the council reached a decision. They would send a diplomatic delegation to Earth. They would demand that humanity surrender its secret fleet and submit to council justice. A show of force would accompany the delegation, enough ships to remind the humans of their place. If diplomacy failed, then the combined fleet would attack. The delegation arrived at Earth 3 days later. 50 council warships escorted the diplomatic vessel, a show of strength that would have terrified any species in the galaxy. But when they entered the Sol system, they found something that terrified them instead. Earth was surrounded by a defensive grid of orbital platforms, hundreds of them, each one bristling with weapons. Behind them waited the human fleet, now fully assembled. Over 5,000 warships formed a wall between the council delegation and humanity's home world. And behind them, more ships were still arriving. They jumped in from hidden bases across human space, taking their positions in the formation. The human military strength seemed to grow with every passing minute. Counselor felt his confidence falter as his ship was guided to a space station called Gateway Prime. He had expected the humans to be afraid, to beg for mercy, to realize they had made a terrible mistake. Instead, they looked calm, ready, almost eager. Admiral met the delegation in a large conference room. He was an old man, small and frail compared to the towering alien representatives, but his eyes were sharp and hard. "Counselors," he said politely, "thank you for coming. Please sit down. We have much to discuss." Remain standing. "There is nothing to discuss. You will surrender your illegal fleet. You will dismantle your banned weapons. You will submit to council justice." Looked at him for a long moment. Then he smiled, and that smile held no warmth at all. "Counselor, let me tell you something about humans. We are survivors. We come from a world that tried to kill us in every possible way. Ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, predators. Everything wanted us dead, and we survived anyway." He walked to a window that looked out on Earth below. "When we reached the stars, we found a galaxy full of species who thought they were better than us. Older, stronger, more advanced. You called us the junior species. You treated us like children, like pests, like something to be tolerated." He turned back to face the delegation. "So we adapted. That is what humans do. We smile and nod and follow the rules while we prepare for the day when the rules no longer protect us. For 150 years we have been preparing, building ships, developing weapons, planning for the day when someone finally pushed us too far." His mandibles trembled. "You are threatening the Galactic Council." "I am explaining reality to you," replied. "You have 30,000 ships. We have 5,000. You think that means you can destroy us. Maybe you can, but what will it cost you?" He activated a holographic display. It showed a map of council space, with certain locations highlighted in red. "These are your shipyards, your food production centers, your population centers." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "We have been mapping them for 100 years. We have sleeper ships already in position near every one of them, carrying weapons that can crack a planet in half." The council representatives stared in horror. "If you attack us, we will not just defend ourselves. We will destroy everything you have, every world, every station, every colony. We will burn your civilizations to ash and scatter the remains across the void." "You would destroy yourselves as well," said quietly. Yes, agreed. We would. Humans call it mutual assured destruction. If we cannot survive, then no one survives. It is not a pleasant strategy, but it is effective. Found his voice. You are insane. You would murder billions of innocent beings. You were going to murder 12 million of our people. You were going to dump them on a frozen moon and let them starve. Do not lecture me about innocent beings. Sat down at the head of the table. Now let us discuss terms. Not your terms, our terms. Because the galaxy has changed counselors. The junior species has grown up, and you are going to have to learn to live with that. The silence in the room was absolute. The most powerful beings in the galaxy sat frozen, staring at the old human who had just threatened to destroy everything they had built. And they realized, perhaps for the first time, that they had made a terrible mistake. The negotiations lasted for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of arguments, threats, and bitter accusations. The council representatives had come to Earth expecting to dictate terms to a defeated enemy. Instead, they found themselves bargaining for their survival. Admiral led the human delegation with patience and steel. He never raised his voice. He never made empty threats. He simply explained, again and again, what would happen if the council chose war. You could destroy us, he admitted during one session. Your combined fleet outnumbers ours 6-1. If you committed everything you have, you would probably win eventually. Then why should we negotiate? Counselor demanded. Because of what you would lose in the process. Activated his holographic display again. Let me show you a simulation our strategists have prepared. The display showed a map of the galaxy. Blue dots represented council forces. Red dots represented human ships. The simulation began, showing the council fleets advancing on human space. The human fleet fought back, destroying thousands of council ships with their advanced weapons. But the council numbers were overwhelming. Slowly, inevitably, the human fleet was pushed back. Earth fell. New Eden fell. One by one, the human colonies were conquered. But then the red dots that had been positioned near council worlds began to activate. Sleeper ships, hidden for decades, launched their weapons. Council began to disappear from the map. First one, then 5, then 20. By the time the simulation ended, the human species was extinct. But so were 8 of the 12 council species. The survivors ruled over a galaxy of ruins, their civilizations shattered, their populations reduced to a fraction of what they had been. This is not a threat, said into the horrified silence. This is a promise. If you destroy us, we take you with us. Not all of you, but enough. Is that a price you are willing to pay? The answer eventually was no. But not everyone agreed. Counselor was the loudest voice against peace. He had lost face when the fleet was destroyed. His political position depended on punishing the humans for their defiance. We cannot accept these terms, he declared during one session. The humans must be punished. If we show weakness now, every junior species in the galaxy will think they can challenge us. And if we show strength and lose half our civilization, responded, what message does that send? We will not lose. Our numbers are superior. Numbers did not help your High Admiral. The argument might have continued forever if not for what happened next. On the 18th day of negotiations, a human ship arrived at Gateway Prime carrying a passenger that no one expected. She was young, barely 30 years old, with dark hair and determined eyes. Her name was Christina Cole, and she was daughter. Christina asked to address the council delegation. Against the advice of his staff, allowed it. She stood before the alien representatives, small and fragile compared to their towering forms. But her voice was steady. My name is Christina Cole, she said. I live on New Eden with my husband and my 2 children. 3 weeks ago, you voted to take our home from us. You voted to send us to some frozen moon to die. Shifted uncomfortably. The relocation was necessary for strategic reasons. My daughter is 7 years old, Christina continued as if he had not spoken. My son is 4. They don't understand strategic reasons. They only understand that strangers wanted to take them away from their home, from their friends, from everything they had ever known. She looked around the room, meeting each alien gaze in turn. I am not a soldier. I am not a politician. I am just a mother who wants her children to be safe. But I watched the battle from my home. I watched your ships come to destroy everything I loved, and I watched our fleet stop them. Her voice hardened. My mother commands that fleet. She would burn this galaxy to ashes to protect her, and so would I, so would every human parent. That is what you are dealing with, not a species that will bow and scrape and accept whatever you decide, a species that will fight to the death for its children. She turned to directly. You want to punish us. Go ahead and try, but understand what you are starting. You are not fighting a fleet. You are fighting every human mother, every human father, every human child who refuses to disappear quietly. And we will never stop. We will never surrender. We will never forgive. The silence that followed her words was heavy and long. It was Counselor who finally spoke. Thank you, Christina Cole. You have reminded us of something we had forgotten, that policies and strategies are meaningless if we forget the people they affect. She turned to the other representatives. I move that we accept the human proposal, not because we are afraid, but because it is right. We have treated humanity as lesser beings for 3 centuries. We have ignored their concerns, dismissed their rights, and finally tried to take their homes. They had every right to resist, and now they have earned the right to be treated as equals. The vote was close. 6 species voted in favor, 4 against, and 2 abstained, but it was enough. The framework for a new treaty was established. Provision 7 Alpha would be abolished. The concept of junior and senior species would be eliminated. All members of the galactic community would have equal standing, equal rights, and equal responsibilities. In return, humanity agreed to share certain technologies, particularly medical advances that could help shorter-lived species. They also agreed to dismantle their most devastating weapons, the planet-killing bombs. The defensive systems would remain, but the apocalyptic threats would be removed. When the framework was announced, stormed out of the conference room. He refused to participate further in the negotiations. His opposition was noted but ignored. Admiral watched him go with a thoughtful expression. He will cause trouble, Samuel Grant observed quietly. Yes, he will, agreed. But he is one counselor among 12, and the others have chosen peace. Do you trust them? Considered the question. No, I don't think I will ever fully trust them, but I believe they understand the alternative now, and understanding is the first step toward real peace. In her quarters aboard Gateway Prime, Cole received a message from her daughter. Christina described the moment she addressed the council, the fear she had felt, the determination that had carried her through. Read the message twice, then wiped her eyes. Her granddaughter was safe. Her grandson was safe. 12 million people on New Eden were safe, and humanity had finally earned its place among the stars. It was enough, for now it was enough. The Treaty of Saul was signed on Earth, in the city of Geneva, in a great hall that had once hosted the United Nations. Representatives of all 12 council species attended, along with delegates from every human colony. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, watched by trillions of beings on thousands of worlds. Cole stood at the podium, wearing her dress uniform for the first time in years. Behind her sat the council members, including a sullen counselor who had been ordered by his government to attend. The people had lost too much to be left out of this moment. 300 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Council. We were young and eager, grateful for the chance to join a community of advanced civilizations. We accepted the role you gave us, the role of the junior species, because we believed that patience and cooperation would eventually earn us respect. She paused, looking out at the assembled delegates. We were wrong. Patience earned us nothing but contempt. Cooperation earned us nothing but exploitation. For 3 centuries, we followed every rule, and you rewarded us by trying to steal our homes. The council members shifted uncomfortably. These were harsh words for a peace ceremony. But today is not about blame, continued. Today is about a new beginning. Today, we sign a treaty that recognizes something that should have been recognized long ago, that all species, young and old, deserve equal dignity and equal rights. She held up the treaty document. This paper represents more than words. It represents a promise that no species will be relocated against its will, a promise that no government will be overthrown because it displeases the powerful, a promise that the galaxy will be ruled by law, not by strength alone. She set the document down on the signing table. Humanity kept a promise too. For 150 years, we promised ourselves that if anyone threatened our children, we would make them pay. We built ships and weapons in secret, preparing for a day we hoped would never come. When that day arrived, we kept our promise. Her voice hardened slightly. Let this be understood by everyone watching. Humanity does not want war. We never wanted war. We want to explore the stars, to learn from other species, to build a future for our children. But we will not be victims. We will not be pushed aside. And if anyone ever threatens our people again, they will face the full strength of everything we have built. She looked directly at. This is not a threat. This is a statement of fact. We remember everything, we forgive nothing, and we protect our own. Then her expression softened. But we also hope. We hope that this treaty marks the beginning of a true partnership between humanity and the other species of this galaxy. We hope that our will grow up in a universe where they are judged by their character, not by their species. We hope that one day, the concept of junior and senior species will be forgotten entirely. She picked up a pen. In that hope, I signed this treaty on behalf of the United Earth Government and all human colonies. Her signature flowed across the page. One by one, the council representatives came forward to add their own marks. Even signed, though his mandibles clicked with barely suppressed anger. When the last signature was complete, raised the document for all to see. It is done. The Treaty of Sol is now in effect. May it bring peace and prosperity to all the peoples of this galaxy. The applause that followed was genuine, if somewhat uncertain. The council species had never been forced to treat anyone as equals before. It would take time for them to adjust. But it was a beginning. After the ceremony, found a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. She could see the lights of Geneva beginning to twinkle below. Samuel Grant joined her, now wearing the insignia of a captain on his collar. "Congratulations, Admiral," he said, "or should I say ambassador?" Smiled slightly. The human government had asked her to serve as their first ambassador to the council. She had accepted, though she wondered if she was suited for diplomacy after commanding a fleet in battle. "Just as fine," she said, "at least when we're alone." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Do you think it will last?" Samuel asked. "The peace?" Considered the question. She thought about the resentment in his compound eyes. She thought about the other council species, about of believing they were superior. She thought about the hidden weapons that humanity still possessed, weapons that could destroy worlds if the peace ever failed. "I don't know," she admitted. "There will always be those who want to put us back in our place, always those who believe that strength is the only thing that matters. So we stay ready. We stay ready, but we also try to build something better." She turned to face him. "That's the human way, isn't it? Prepare for the worst but work for the best." Samuel nodded slowly. "My grandfather used to say something like that. He said that hope and fear were two sides of the same coin. You need both to survive." Your grandfather was a wise man. He was a soldier like us. He fought in the Mars uprising back when we were still fighting each other." Samuel shook his head. "It's strange to think about. Humanity spent most of its history at war with itself, and now we're united, standing together against an entire galaxy." "Maybe that's what we needed," said thoughtfully. "An outside threat to remind us that we're all the same species, all the same family." She looked up at the stars, which were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Mine are up there somewhere, on New Eden, looking at the same stars. They're safe now, that's what matters. And their children there." Smiled. "That's what the treaty is for. That's what we fought for, not just for today but for all the tomorrows to come." She straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Come on, Captain. We have a reception to attend. Time to start building those relationships with our new equals." Samuel grinned. "I never thought I'd see the day when I had to call me an equal." "Neither did they. That's why they're so angry." Smile turned sharp. "Good. Let them be angry. Let them remember what happens when they underestimate humans." They walked back inside together, leaving the balcony empty except for the fading light. Above them, the stars shone with the light of a million suns, a universe of possibilities waiting to be explored. Humanity had earned its place among them, not through patience and submission, but through strength and determination. The junior species had grown up. The quiet species had found its voice, and the galaxy would never forget the sound of humanity's roar. Somewhere on New Eden, a 7-year-old girl looked up at the night sky and asked her mother about the bright star that had appeared a few weeks ago. Her mother explained that it was a space station, a place where humans and aliens were learning to live together as friends. The girl thought about this for a moment. Then she smiled and said she hoped she could visit it someday. Her mother held her close and promised that she would. And in that moment, in that simple exchange between mother and child, the true victory of humanity was complete. Not in the battles won or the treaties signed, but in the hope that burned bright in the hearts of every human child. Hope for tomorrow, hope for the future, hope for a galaxy where anyone could reach for the stars. That was what they had fought for. That was what they had won.